Hey judges, my name is Navdeep Buddha,
Hello, I'm Samvit Conchada.
and this is our program, Global Subtitles.
We are competing in the 7th to 8th grade project programming category.
Global Subtitles is a program that transcribes any audio into a subtitle bar at the bottom of your screen.
This display automatically transcribes and translates text at a rapid speed, giving on-demand subtitles.
This is an example of Global Subtitles in action using one of the videos that my social studies teacher sent me. This site does not have automatic transcription, so when you're in environments where you can't have that big of an audio.
So our first use case is we experienced a problem where there was no subtitle availability. Global subtitles can recognize their voice and display it as a subtitle on your display. Right-click on Global Subtitles. We have three options: one to quit the application, one to show the application, which is what we're going to do now. So now we can see that it offers many settings. So Translate 2, it offers many translate features. We're going to leave it with English for now. And it also has window opacity, which is if your window is transparent or solid background. And then we have transcription, which is going to be enabled for meetings, like if your friend says something important, you can go back into the transcription file and see what they said. Then for words shown, if you have a bigger monitor, you can have more max words to show. Hi, Navid.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
What is your favorite food?
My favorite food is pancakes.
My favorite food is pizza. That's a very cool food that you have. That's also my favorite breakfast item.
We're gonna go look at the transcription file it generated in our home. So in our home folder, it'll generate this file, and I'm gonna open it. And here we have our thing. Now we're looking at a video that does not have subtitles. Open up Global Subtitles, and we're gonna use some different settings. So we're gonna translate it to Spanish this time, and we're gonna put the window opacity to solid background, and then we're gonna disable transcription.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mr. Freelo, and we're going to start off today. We're starting our unit obviously on the Civil War in the United States, and so we are going to talk about how we got there. We talked about in our last unit, obviously.
We also have another option in the start menu in the tray application called Quick Start. Instead of having to go through all the settings and everything, you can direct Quick Start, and you have a subtitle menu down here. By default, it'll open to the system tray. This is meant so you can add global subtitles to your start applications. There's a feature called Show Window on Startup. So if you set this to enabled, every time you start your global subtitles application, you'll see this window when you start it. And now we're going to try launching it. And as you can see, right from the start, we have global subtitles. This is the data flow chart. When we start the application, something called the main thread starts. And from the main thread, we also start something called the API loop thread when we start the subtitle loop. So in the API loop, we access the Assembly AI API, which does speech-to-text conversion. An API works is there's a computer in Assembly AI's headquarters somewhere, and we send our audio data to them, and they convert that to text, and then they send that back to us, which will show in our subtitle display. We also have settings.py for runtime settings like opacity, window opacity, translation languages. And then we have something called DeepL Translation API for translating languages. We also have configuration files, so this is for settings like show window on startup. These settings have to be saved across sessions, across times you open Global Subtitles. So this is stored in our home directory, where as a .global subtitles file.
We use flaticon.com to get our logo assets. The language we used for the entire application was Python. The UI for the system tray and settings application was PyQt5. Next we used tkinter, and we used tkinter for our subtitles display. Next we use PyAudio, and then we use WebSockets. And lastly, we use Translate.
We used Assembly AI, which is an API for audio to text conversion. We also use DeepL for translation.
What's a description of the unique aspects of the project and any creative steps taken in the design process?
But once we created the application, we took many steps to make it better, and we added a lot of customization and configuration options. Explanation of new skills learned and applied may include parts of software or the design process.
We learned how to use Assembly API and DeepL, and learned a lot about making desktop applications with Python. In the past, we've worked with Python for other things like websites, but we've never done desktop applications, so this was really a good learning experience for us. What's a description of documentation of any non-student produced materials or sources that need to be cited?
So the logo was designed using assets from flaticon.com. Speech to text is possible because of Assembly AI's API. Translation is possible because of DeepL's API. Reflection on improvements on current state of project or what you would have done differently if you had to do it all over again.
So we really tried to get as many of the important features done as possible, but there are still some improvements that we could add. This includes custom themes and color choices, a settings option to change window height, and maybe use Google Translate's API for translation instead because it provides support for more languages. We could have also implemented a feature in which the user would be able to import their own API keys for personal use.
So Navdeep, what involvement did your parents or teachers have?
Our parents together, they actually provided us with a lot of the support that we needed to at the times that we spent making the project. However, we made the actual project ourselves and programmed all of it. How long did it take for us to create the project?
We started over a month ago and have in total spent about 24 hours on and off working on the project. So total work time is about 24 hours. So first in the code, we import some libraries to write the code. So this is like UI kits or frameworks. So first one is PyQt5, which is used to make the GUI for the system tray application and settings application. And then we also have Kinter, which is used to display the subtitles. We also create some variables, for example, quick start, which is used for finding the application run type. So if you select quick type from the system tray, that means it's going to skip the settings window. So this is required to tell all functions what mood to start in. So then we have a bunch of other functions. A function is like a set of code that can be used throughout the code, so that way you don't have to duplicate code multiple times. They can just be defined once, and then you can just like repeat them whenever you need to use the code. So we use functions for almost everything in the program. So the first function is to close to PyQt. So when you close the subtitle display, it'll close to the system tray application instead of closing the entire application. And then we have quick start, which happens when you click on the system tray button. We have show application, which happens when you click on the show application button. We have on closing, which happens when you quit the actual application with this from the system tray. And there's also translate subtitle, which is used internally to translate text when you select translate the text. We also have API loop. If you remember from the threading, we have two main threads, the main thread and the API loop thread. This is because we need the main thread to update this subtitle displayed, which is one loop. And then we also need another thread, which is like a process in the CPU to communicate with our API, Assembly AI, and then it sends the audio data, and then it gets the text back from Assembly AI in a loop, and then both of them are running loops. We can't have two loops running in the same thread, so we separate that into two threads, and then we launch it using a function called API loop. We also have something called read file update subtitle. This is for the main thread that sets the subtitle displays text. And then we have subtitle func, which is run when you open the subtitle window, which shows the display of the subtitle. It also checks if the start variable to check if the application mode is quick start. It creates the window, it defines the window, it sets all the labels, and then it starts the window. It also starts the API loop on a separate thread. It also starts read file update subtitle on the main thread. So this way both loops happen at the same time. There's also the GUI function. In the GUI function, first it defines the system tray application. It defines the system tray application over here, this one, and then it also defines the menu, defines the settings option. So that's like these, and then afterward it chooses whether it checks whether show window on startup setting is enabled, which you can enable or disable over here. and then if it's enabled, then it'll show the window. Otherwise, it'll just save the find window, and then whenever you want to launch the window using show application, it'll be launched. And then also, if the code is being run, it runs the GUI function, which launches the system tray application. It also prints some logs and checks if your API keys are present. The API loop, it runs a file called funcs.py. In this, it basically starts a loop that communicates with assembly AI and then brings us back the text. So first it creates a stream. This is like reading from our audio, and then it sends that data to assembly AI. Here, it contacts this URL to communicate with assembly AI. There's a function called send receive. This is the function that's run over and over again to do the loop. And then inside this function, there's something called send, where it's a loop of sending your audio data from the stream to assembly AI. And then there's another part called receive, and here it takes the data from the API, and then it sets it to a variable inside a file called settings.py. This is used to communicate between the threads, because we have two threads, and you can't just set a variable and like communicate easily between the threads. You have to put something in the middle. So we use something called settings.py. So there's the API loop thread. It gets the subtitle, it puts it into the settings.py, and then this update subtitle, the main thread, it reads from settings.py, and then it shows the subtitle at the subtitle display at the bottom of your screen. Settings.py also has some other stuff like the runtime settings, that's like window opacity or translate to. These stuff, you don't need them to save between sessions, so it's on runtime only. We also have something called configure.py. This stores the API keys or passwords. Thanks for watching.
We hope you enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye.